Okay, also everyone welcome to the Zoom meeting, and I just see that I have no background. I'm just on my video, I'm just floating in somehow in a dark space. I don't know why, so sorry you can't see the nice Buddhas. Maybe it changes over time. So for all those, I think everyone knows me now. Yes. So maybe you not. Maybe some people who are new online. So my name is Tenzin Thegchog. Yeah, I did. No? So video. We tried to change this.
Yeah. None? Can you go for none?
No, I can't. No. Somehow. No. Okay, it's like this. Sounds not very nice. Looks not very nice, but I think it's okay. I'm floating around, so that's okay. So my name is Tenzin Thegchog, and I'm from Nalanda Monastery, and I'm just on my way back from Tushita Dharamsala to France, actually. And I stopped here, and I'm happy to give some teachings. So today teaching is, I think, for me, it's personally quite interesting. I don't know if it's for you. So that's the topic is looking beyond this life, and especially about what is rebirth actually in Buddhism, and why is it important, and why is it also important maybe for us. And the interesting thing is that Buddhism is in a way not a religion, but more a science, in the sense that every aspect of the doctrine has to be proved. So also rebirth is something we don't have to believe or something, but Buddhism really tries to prove it. So in a logical way, but also to give some, some examples of rebirth, or maybe some hints that rebirth is happening. So I would say we start first with a short meditation in order to calm a little bit our mind, and then also develop a good motivation, aspiration for the following 1.5 hours. And yeah, let's do this. I think you're all quite experienced with shamatha meditation, maybe. So just do a short sitting meditation and observing the breath. So try to find the best position you are able to. The most important thing would be have an upright back. And for a moment, feel how you sit. And you can scan your body, beginning at the top of your head and slowly wandering with your attention through your body. And if you feel that there's some tension or tightness in your body, maybe around the eyes or the jaw or your shoulders, just let it flow out of your body and release it with your out breath. And then slowly turn your attention to your in and out breath. And let your breath naturally arise. And give yourself a break from all worries or projects, concerns and memories by simply observing the breath. And then we generate a positive motivation for this sharing the Dharma together. Maybe we get some insights. Maybe there's something we could apply to our life. And we can also think of all the other sentient beings surrounding us. We are connected with them, even if we are not aware. And let this being here together also a cause for their well-being. May they find happiness and may they be free of suffering. And for all those who are connected with Buddhism and are already very familiar, If you like, you can recite together with me the refuge prayer. I will pray it or chant it first in Tibetan and then 2 times in English. Sangye chedan zagi jonam la janjo bada dani gapsoji ragi jinzagi besonam gi lola benji zange dopashok. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of giving and the other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all living beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of giving and the other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all living beings. Right. So I will share also the screen now for the people online. You see me now probably, for those who are online, you can see me in the corner, in the left corner of the slide. Looks good, but yeah. All right. All right, looking beyond this life. So why should we look beyond this life? Because normally it's said a spiritual way or spiritual practice begins then when we look beyond this life, when we are not only concerned with the happiness of this life, but when we have a more long-term goal. So, of course, if we don't accept rebirth or life after death, then things are not working in this way. But still, you could, even if you don't believe in rebirth or accept it, or how to say, there's still a lot of benefit of it. So we can practice Buddhism actually without being or believing in rebirth. So, but on the other side, if we don't believe it, some aspects of Buddhism we are missing. And I said before I started that Buddhism is actually not a religion. It has religious aspects, but actually it's a science because it tries to prove everything. So we have different phenomena according to Buddhism. So they are phenomena we can see directly and perceive with the senses. So these are the so-called manifest phenomena. Then there are phenomena, they are slightly hidden, or we cannot observe with our senses. For example, subtle impermanence, so the constant change on a subatomic level and so on, we cannot really perceive with our senses. Or what else would be? Yeah, even looking with a telescope behind into the far-reaching areas of our universe. Sometimes this is not possible, and especially in former times. So Buddhism says slightly hidden phenomena like this, they can be proven or should be proven by reasoning, by an inferential proof. And the third type is a very hidden phenomena. We cannot even prove them through reasoning. We can only rely on an authority. So this is, of course, a problematic point, especially the subtle aspects of karma. It is said we can only prove, so to say, when we have a reliable, a valid authority. But this is another topic, because rebirth, it said, it's only a slightly hidden phenomenon, so we can try to prove it with inferential reasoning. So, and I will later on explain this. So there's Indian logician called Dharmakirti, and he tried to prove rebirth and also some aspects of karma in the second chapter of the Pranamavartika. That's the commentary on valid reasoning, so quite a famous text. But I won't go too much into this text, but try to explain it a little bit in a more loose way, so more accessible. So we could also ask, why is it is so important, rebirth in Buddhism? And there are some points regarding this. So the first point, it's very important in the Lamrim. So the whole structure of the Lamrim, I don't know how you really familiar with it, but I will go after the next slide, I will go a little bit into it. Then also understanding karma, we need to have an understanding or at least some acceptance of rebirth and really to understand karma from this background here. And also developing love, compassion, and bodhicitta. This is without accepting that there is rebirth, it's quite difficult. And for understanding non-self or emptiness is without this concept of rebirth difficult to understand, and even understanding the mind according to Buddhism. So you see, rebirth has quite a central role in this teaching. And I will go now to the first point, the Lamrim. So I will just show you just as a reminder, the structure of the Lamrim. So the whole Lamrim is you can divide it into 3 levels of motivation, sometimes called small scope, middle scope, and great scope. So the small scope, the initial level of motivation we should have when you want to practice the Lamrim is striving for a fortunate rebirth. Last time here in the teaching I spoke a little bit about the precious human life, but actually it's called the precious human rebirth. So if we don't believe in rebirth or accept it in a way, why should we then strive for fortunate rebirth? This makes actually no sense, no? So even the initial level of the Lamrim is not working without this, thinking of rebirth. Then also the second level, this is striving for self-liberation or for nirvana. So liberation from what? So liberation from this reoccurring cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death, and so on and so on. From this we want to become liberated. So this is then the way of achieving nirvana. And the great scope, or the highest level of motivation, is striving for enlightenment. So this means not only become liberated from samsara, but also become enlightened for the sake of all other living beings that are still wandering in samsara. And for this we need a lot of love, compassion, and bodhicitta. But maybe you have heard about one method to generate bodhicitta is the 7 cause and effect method. And it all begins with seeing all sentient beings around you as your mothers. So this is not really working when we are not accepting rebirth. Of course, we could see the kindness maybe of a spider and so on, or the kindness of another person, and really try to have the wish to help this person. But when we with a person, it actually works. No? Maybe I really tried to help this person, but for a spider, how did this being ever benefited me? No? So there is no chance to develop some closeness, some kindness towards this being. And without this, we cannot really develop bodhicitta. So as I said, we can practice Buddhism without all that, but then it's more a little bit like self-therapy and also social work. So we just, sometimes it's called Dharma light. So the real Dharma, or it sounds a bit judgmental, but the Dharma, as the Buddha taught, is without this part of rebirth. It's not actually really working. But as I said, it's totally fine to do this, but we miss some deeper dimension of Buddhism if we don't try at least to understand it. So this whole here presentation is also not about make you believe in rebirth or feel bad if you don't believe in rebirth, but just simply to have some interest in understanding how Buddhism sees the whole thing. Maybe here from your culture, from Hinduism and also in Asia, there is not so much a problem, I think, with believing in rebirth, probably, but for us Westerners, it's quite problematic for most of us, no? And also to really become clear what is the difference between rebirth, for example, in Hinduism, and rebirth in Buddhism. That's also a little bit blurry for some people, and also the concept of karma. So this is an explanation why it's quite important to at least have some knowledge about the way Buddhism explains it. And I would like to give you some kind of mental map. What is life after death? So, and how is Buddhism related to other religions and so on? I think that's quite important. So, life after death, for example, we have this afterlife, I call it. We have it in Judaism, we have it in Christianity, and we have it also in Islam. So there's, in a sense, not really a rebirth, in a sense, but there's a life after death. So in the sense that the soul after death goes either down in an unfortunate realm or goes up in a fortunate realm. And this is by, you could say, either rewarding or punishing, in a way, your ethical behavior.
Purgatory.
Sorry?
Purgatory.
Poetry?
Purgatory. Purgatory.
Okay.
Waits before it's
Okay.
In between.
In between, that's also there. Yeah, purgatory. Sorry. That's true. It's really here a simplification what I'm doing. No? So then we have the other side there, we have really so-called reincarnation. So we have reincarnation with karma and with a self or a soul or an Atman or something like this. And this is the case in Hinduism. And of course, Hinduism is a very complex belief system with many streams and so on. So this is also a simplification. But you could say that in all Hinduistic tradition, there is some the concept of an Atman and a Brahman, and over going with regard with karma, producing good karma or bad karma, you achieve or you don't achieve this unity with the divine or with the Brahman. So sorry if it's very oversimplification. And then we have the so-called New Age. So New Age, it's a broad stream mixture of all different type of things. And also there we have a kind of core or soul. So, and there are many different practices taken from Hinduism, from Buddhism, from Celtic religions. So it's a big soup a little bit, but the whole thing is also, they seem to believe very often in the consequences of their deeds. So they also apply a certain type of karma. So New Age is maybe not so dominant here, but in the West, there you find it quite a lot. No? So, and you never sometimes know what they are speaking about because it's a quite a mixture. So, and then we have Buddhism. So that's a reincarnation. So we have with karma, but without a soul or a self. It's called an Atman. And here you really see the difference to Hinduism and also to all the other religions or belief systems. And then I found out, oh, it's not without karma. There's also, for example, the Druze. That's religious belief, a little bit a mixture with Islam, but also some other streams from Lebanon, from Syria, as I know, and also I think Iran, but I'm not 100% sure. So also the Druze believe in some type of reincarnation, but they only reincarnate in the Druze community. So when they are reborn, they only take rebirth there and never as an animal, for example. Then we have the Inuit. So that's this, how to say, tribe or a population or group of population living really in the north, near Canada and Greenland. And they also believe that there is something like a soul. Also animals have a soul, and they believe that there is some transcendent realm where they can go back. And it's also a type of purification process that the soul or whatever it is in their language, which takes place. And the last is the Qatar. So this was a sect, a little bit mixture of Christianity and other types, was especially in the south of France, where now the monastery is where I live. So in the 11th and 12th century, this was quite dominant there. And they believed that the body is something evil. So there are two principles, an evil principle and a good principle, and that this clean, pure soul is somehow trapped in the body, and you have to live a very perfectionist life with pure morality in order to go back into the heaven, the good realm. So this sect was then extinguished by the Catholic Church, and they burned many of these people, and they believed also in a type of reincarnation, also as a form of purification process. So some of these things, especially the Druze and the Inuit, this was quite new for me. So I didn't know this. And you could say that all these life after death, falling in this monotheistic religion, there's always a judgment of ethical behavior. through a deity, you could say, Allah or God or Yahweh. And here in the other realm, without karma, you have this more purification process. So you see that Buddhism is quite unique in this way. So it believes that karma, all our actions are counting, but there is no self. And this is quite a riddle, a puzzle. No? How does it work then if there's no self? No? So, and before I go really into some theory and so on, I thought it's maybe more uplifting to get to give you some potential evidences. So, for example, there is normally, or especially John Locke, British philosopher or Scottish philosopher, he believed that every being, every human, when this human being is born, is like a blank slate, a white paper.
Tabula rasa.
Yes, tabula rasa. And this is what can be questioned because there are different personality and habits. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, of course, there are genetic influences and so on, but I think every parent who has more than one children, so they can see how these children are so different, even from the very beginning. And it seems that some interests or some likings, some predispositions cannot really, or it's at least difficult to explain to genetic, the genetic structure the child is born with. So this seems to be some hint that there is something already there from a former life. Of course, you can try to explain it wholly in a genetic way, but there's also no scientific proof for that this is the case. Then there are memories of past lives. And there's a very famous example of Dhamma. So he was born 1968 in Sri Lanka. And when he was 2, he just sat down in meditation and started to chant. And so his mother, she didn't really liked it, and she tried to hush him down and so on. But when he was 3, he was continuing chanting, and in a language that the mother couldn't understand. And it turned out, after recording some of this and then giving it to some scientist and so on, that he was chanting Buddhist sutras in Pali in a way that is more than 1,000 years old, also in a tune and in a dialect which was not existing anymore. No? And this was quite amazing. Later on, he said, Dhamma, that he was first trained in the Vedanta and was really trained in order to memorize all types of things. And then he became a monk, so in his former life, and he became the disciple of Buddhaghosa, or the Buddhaghosa, and this is a very famous translator and also monk from the 5th century. So Buddhaghosa, he was a Nalanda master, and then later on he went to Sri Lanka in order to translate Buddhist texts into Pali. So, and there's also maybe I can just, because there is a chanting, maybe we can just listen to this. Well, it's not working, of course. So sorry. Okay, maybe next time. Because there's some chanting, how he says 2 years old, 3 years old, he was chanting this, and it was recorded by his father. And interesting enough that there are no text at this time available what he was chanting in this certain dialect and so on. And also his parents were not Buddhist, so it was quite strange that he did this. No? So this is called a case of xenoglossy. So when you know some languages from a former life. So then there are also birthmarks. So there is psychiatrist Ian Stevenson. He died several years ago, and his whole life he was researching about cases, about memories, and also birthmarks who could maybe hint to a possible type of rebirth. And he did his research in a very systematic way and checked everything and so on. And here's only one example, because he saw that birthmarks sometimes, although it seemed that they are quite random birthmarks, that they are a hint of a former rebirth. So this Thai person here was a young man, and he remembered to be a person, a man killed by someone who shot him through the head. And interesting that he has 2 birthmarks. Here on the left side, you see a very small. So this is where it seems to be the bullet went into the head. So this gives only a small. And on the other side, here on the right picture, there's a bigger thing. So when the bullet comes out of the head, it makes a bigger hole. So, and this was quite interesting, because he remembered to be killed, a certain person, when he was very young, and later on they discovered that he has also these birthmarks, and this is quite strange. So Ian Stevenson never said that these are proofs for rebirth. So he did more than 1,000, I think, cases. He traveled around the world and so on, but he always said they hint into a possibility of rebirth. So I think that's also quite interesting. And if you are interested in this, there are quite a lot of books by Ian Stevenson where he tries to describe his method and also to show this. So then there's this so-called tukdam. So you see here this monk, he's dead. He's already dead for a couple of days, maybe more than a week, and he's meditating. So tukdam is especially, you can find it in the Tibetan community, especially with people who are very experienced practitioners. And the interesting thing is that their bodies, although there's no brain activity and the heart stopped and the breath, they don't decay. They are stay somehow in meditation, it is said. And sometimes it happens that these persons, they stay for 18 days, 20 days, no, in this called tukdam, and they are meditating on what is called the subtle, the clear light mind of death. So they use a certain subtle level of the mind in order to realize emptiness, and when they finish their meditation, then they really yeah, fall down. They don't have any tension anymore, and then their body starts to decay. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he was very interested in this, so he started in the so-called Thukdam project, where he works with neuroscientists together in order to find out what is actually happening with these people. So I saw in a documentary about this Thukdam process that this scientist went then to a remote house in Dharamsala, near Dharamsala, and the person there, he lied there already for a couple of days, and inside the hut and outside it was more than 35 degrees. So there was still no decay, but there was no breath, no heart, no brain activity. So they tried really to find out what's happening, but at this moment they don't have. No? So if this is possible, that's quite often happening for some reasons. This could be a hint that the mind and the body are somehow dependent on each other, but not totally depending, so that the mind can even exist in a very subtle form, even if the body is not functioning anymore. So this is what we call the mind-body problem. So this is a very important topic in the whole philosophy, and also still in science. How is body and mind related? So in the Western philosophy, there's a lot of, and also in science, there's a so-called materialistic viewpoint or physicalist viewpoint that says the mind is only an emergent function of the brain. Without the brain, there cannot be any mind. So this is, or they even say the mind is identical with all the neural brain activities. But this Thukdam and all the examples before, they seem to at least offer the possibility that some levels of mind can even exist without a body. So, and this is quite a challenge, especially for scientists, and I would say Western scientists. So His Holiness said, if there are any scientific proofs that there is no independent mind and there is no rebirth and so on, he would change his belief systems. So he then invited a lot of scientists to Mind Life conferences and discusses with physicists and with neuroscientists all these problems. And he says Buddhism has a lot to offer also to them. So because they look at the brain and the mind always from outside, and Buddhism has more this contemplative approach, so this subjective approach, looking with the mind itself. So His Holiness say both can really enhance each other. I don't know what you believe, but I was very, what to say, for me it was, or still is still quite hard, because I grew up in a more this materialistic approach. I really thought, okay, there's only the brain and the body, and if there's no body in the brain, there can be no mind. And I was always struggling in conflict with this rebirth concept. So this is one of the reasons that I'm so into this topic, and also Geshe Dorje Damdul, who's very interested interested in science and so on, also in quantum physics, he says, yeah, that's a very important problem, no? Especially for all of us. No? Okay, let's have a look at the time. So what I brought here, given here, was more practical hints that this could be possible. And now what would be follow is a more logical reasoning behind this. No? And this is really quite interesting. Especially we have them at first look at the Buddhist explanation of the nature of the mind. So the mind in Buddhism is quite specifically defined. First, the word mind is not a very good translation for the Tibetan word. For example, in Tibetan, I think you know Tibetan, no? There are many different words for mind. Sam, and also another one, Chitta, no, that's a Sanskrit word. No? Yeah. So, but there are different words for it. So mind actually here means consciousness or awareness. So it does not mean our intellectual faculties, not only, but also emotions, also sensations, every type of consciousness actually. So, and mind here means the entirety of our subjective experience. And this is therefore a problem for scientists, especially neuroscientists, because they can, through imaging techniques, they can now show in which areas of the mind something works. But when you have fear, for example, or you have a certain smell and so on, you can measure it in the special area in the brain, but it's still different from another person who has the same smell, but a different subjective experience. So the subjective character of the mind, of this consciousness, with this neuroscience and also psychology, modern psychology has a lot of problems because it cannot be measured. No? So there is now we come to the definition of mind, which is a little bit cryptic. So the mind in Buddhism is what is clear and knowing. So what does this mean? So we go first to this one, clarity, the first aspect. So clarity means the following. First, it means clarity. The mind or subjective experience is a non-physical phenomenon. It cannot be, it has no color, it has no extension, it has no weight, and so on, and it can be therefore not be identical with the brain. So clarity of the mind here means it's a non-physical phenomenon and it's not identical with the brain. Second, this clarity also means that the true nature of the mind is totally pure in the sense of, or clear, in the sense that all our negative emotions and so on, because they are based on a distorted view of reality, they are only surface phenomena, like clouds in the blue sky. The clouds can be removed, or even if the sky is totally clouded, the blue sky, the purity of the mind is always there. So that's the second aspect. And then the third aspect, the mind is like a mirror. It mirrors and takes the aspect of that what it perceives or becomes aware. So in our context here, especially here, this brain with the cross is especially important, because rebirth is only possible if it's not a physical phenomenon, but a non-physical phenomenon. Then the second aspect is a little bit difficult to understand, the so-called knowing character of the mind. So the mind is always doing something. It's always a process of engaging in something, in knowing something, of being aware. And there's always the subject, the mind, and there's an object. And the object is depending on the subject, but the subject is always depending on the object. So there's an interrelationship. It cannot be something else. So the mind is always that what has an object, so to say. And then this is more, especially in relation to the Tukdam experience, there are different levels of mind. So this is also what normal scientists, neuroscientists not really appreciate. They very often say, yeah, without eyes you cannot see. So therefore the eye consciousness is depending totally only on the existence of a functioning eye and so on. But this would be only the coarse level of consciousness, and there's a more subtle consciousness, which is our mental consciousness, for example, when we are dreaming or we are in really deep states of meditation. So then the level of the mind becomes more subtle. And then the very subtle level, the subtlest level of consciousness is the so-called clear light of death. So when you understand or have read about the death process, so it's not like what we normally think, it's like a switch. When we die, the breath stops and the brain stops and the heart stops, we are dead. But according to Buddhism, this process is quite longer. So it takes up to 3 days until this very subtle consciousness leaves the body. So this, through a lot of practice, especially in highest yoga tantra, practitioners try to get access to this very subtle level of mind in order to use it for the direct realization of emptiness. So, and this very subtle level of mind is encapsulated here in the heart area. So that's there. And we all experience it when we die, but most of us, or I would say 99%, are not really aware of it, that this happens, but it's the case for everyone. And those people who are in Tukdam, they stay with this very subtle level of mind and can apply it. And this would be then independent of the body. It's still, in a way, depending that the body, it needs a body in order to not to function, but to have a home somehow. But after the death, this subtle consciousness, this very subtle stream of non-conceptual consciousness leaves the body and incarnates then into another body. But it's not a soul. It's only labeled on a certain continuity of mind. Okay. So now we come to the logical proof, but I'm a little bit hesitating because now it becomes even more theoretically, and I think it's better maybe if you have any questions and so on, or comments. This would be, I think, better than to go into some principles of causality. So probably this would be too much at this state. So do you have any questions or comments? So people on.
Sir, can I say something?
Yes, of course.
You just said it is not a soul with the very basic like thing which incarnates, and
Yes.
I didn't quite hear because of my bad hearing, and there's noise around.
Okay.
Exactly what you said. So you said it is not a soul, and then you explained it further.
Yeah. Here I'm a bit hesitating about this because very often people say this very subtle level of mind, no? Which is here, it has two aspects. It has the aspect of mind and of energy somehow. It's a combination of both. Some people then say, but this is the soul. But according to the so-called Prasangika viewpoint, they say, no, you can, this subtle mind, this is only merely labeled on a, how to say now, it becomes very difficult. So ultimately, if you look for it, so you cannot find this very subtle mind, it's ultimately empty of inherent existence. But it's still existing on a conventional level. It is labeled as the very subtle or the clear light mind of death. So it's only a label. So it's not something what is not changing or stays all the time or something permanent. It's actually a type of process happening there, which is so subtle, but still we can label it in a certain way. So for this, we would have to go into the Prasangika view of emptiness. And I'm a bit hesitating to go into this, because then things become quite difficult. But it's not a soul, it's not a core, it's more a process. Another question? Even doubts? I like doubts, please.
If there is no soul, then what is it that gets transferred from one body to another?
Yeah, so the question is, when there's no soul, no? Or no core, or no Atman, so what is then going from one body to another? So this would be the answer. It would be this stream of consciousness, the continuity of many mental events. So this would go to the next life. But this is also a question, because where are then these karmic imprints stored? No? Where, because you need something like a transporter, so to say. No? And there's a viewpoint of the Chittamatra. They say there's something like a store consciousness, no? Something that where all the imprints go into it, and this store consciousness goes then to the next life. But according to the more subtler viewpoint of Prasangika, this is not the case. They really also say the I, the person, is labeled onto the basis of this continuity of the mind. There is no substance underlying it. It's just a succession of different mental events. I will later on Monday, I will go also in this, who is actually then reborn and so on, or what is reborn. No? So this is quite mind-blowing, I would say. No? And there, I think this is the challenging point for most of us. No? Right? So no one tries to to ask the so-called stupid questions. Because they are actually always the best, no? I think. No? Yes, thank you.
I had a question that mind can be in a happy state or in a sad state, or it can be destructive or it can be creative. That same mind can take different forms. So how can we bring equanimity and not get too carried away with any of the behaviors that have a negative impact?
Yeah. So I think the question is how we can achieve some more equanimity
Yeah.
when the mind can be in all these different states. So first, I think important is we have to identify the destructive states in our mind and also the positive states in our mind. Normally we are not so aware sometimes of what really happens in our mind. And then we have to analyze especially the destructive states of mind, because according to Buddhism they are called afflictions or delusions, because they are created by a distorted view with regard of reality. So they are not in tune with reality and therefore they are destructive. So in order to really overcome them, we have to create a correct view of reality, which is emptiness. And then these state of mind, they don't arise anymore, finally, but we have to begin with slowly decreasing them and so on. There are a lot of antidotes also for this. For example, attachment, which is a very strong feeling tightness, being fixated on something or a person. For example, a good antidote is meditating on impermanence, so that things are constantly changing, because this already releases or it dissolves this very rigid, narrow mind. And the positive qualities, interesting, they, according to Buddhism, they rely on a more realistic view. For example, compassion and love can only arise when we see the interconnectedness with all beings, that we are not separated. And this is it's a view that is totally related to the viewpoint of emptiness, so that everything is a depending arising, no? And everything is intertwined, no? And connected with each other. So positive qualities can be developed then in a limitless way, whereas the negative qualities, they can over time decrease. And equanimity, yeah, I would say here it's more a balanced mind, no? A mind that is more in peace, no? Because not so many afflictions arise anymore.
How can we bring the mind to peace or calm the mind?
One is meditation, of course, no? For example, stabilizing meditation, what we did in the beginning, taking something as your object of meditation. Because when you look at the mind, normally the attention is wandering all the time to different goals, memories, thoughts, outside, inside, and so on. And then we set the attention to a certain focus, here the breath, for example. And in this way, you stabilize the mind. This can already help, no? And the next thing is then analytical meditation or vipassana. Analytical meditation means you really, for example, you investigate emptiness, you really investigate impermanence and how things exist, how you exist. No? And also developing love and compassion within yourself. for example, compassion, when you really feel compassion for others, your mind is really happy normally, it's very balanced and open. Of course, there's maybe some, if you really see people really strongly suffer, you feel also a lot of maybe some distress, some pain and so on, because the other person is suffering. But when you are able to help, so this really gives your mind a lot of contentment and also peace, I think. So I think the important thing is that we work on different levels, So, and start with small meditations and so on. But also I think here this topic of rebirth. Normally when we don't think about rebirth, we identify ourselves with this how we are now, But when we really think of beginningless lifetimes and future lifetimes, our view regarding ourselves also changes, becomes vaster in a way. We are not only then this person trapped in this body with all the limitation and sickness and so on, but we have a broader perspective, and also the goal, in which way we want to live, changes, Because when we know that what we are doing does, of course, we can see you do something and it has an effect, So, but when we, for example, think of future rebirths, that our behavior, how we charge our mind, how we fuel or infuse our mind with certain tendencies and so on, this also has then, gives you a larger perspective of what you're doing and so on. Yes?
I have 4 questions.
4.
No.
But we start with 1.
Okay. We talked about emptiness and emptiness of the mind. How to empty the mind? How to empty the mind of its whole past? As I'm learning, the mind is getting reborn.
I think this question you asked last time. I think yes.
Yes. And second question is interrelated. If the mind is totally empty, will there be no rebirth?
So the question is, how do we empty the mind? And if we empty our mind, will be there no rebirth? So I think now we really would have to explain what is empty. Emptiness here is a concept. Empty means something or everything. You, the world, this cushion, this computer is empty of independent existence. This is what is emptiness. What does it mean in Buddhist philosophy? So empty your mind is something else. So you cannot empty your mind, I think, because there's always something going on in your mind. You can make your mind calmer and more peaceful, but you cannot never stop the mind. Even when you kill yourself, according to this, your mind is not stopped. So you cannot really empty your mind, but you can clarify the mind to become more constructive and more vast, more happy. And rebirth, for example, when you achieve nirvana or later Buddhahood, rebirth is theoretically stopped. So rebirth or samsara means you have no control over this process of being reborn and where you are reborn, in which way, and so on. But when you are an arhat or a Buddha or a bodhisattva, you have the ability to be reborn through compassion. You are not regulated anymore by karma, so you can choose actually where you want to be reborn in order to benefit others. So a Buddha is not reborn anymore, but he's manifesting in many different ways, no? So it's said as persons, even at things sometimes. I don't know how it works, no? But that's still the way. So we have to, this word empty is problematic, no? You see, emptiness here and empty the mind is something different, no? But your mind is in nature empty. This means it's empty of inherent independent existence. But what these words actually mean, we have to investigate. Now, it's very easy to say them, but what does it really mean is, so I'm far from that.
Is there any way, if you've been with Buddhist philosophy for possibly many years, is there any way I as an individual can meet anybody who's a master whom if I go and meet can tell me about all my last previous rebirths?
I think they are probably, so it's said when you achieve certain states of meditation, you can achieve some so-called siddhis, so they have some clairvoyance, and they have also some so-called magical feats, where they can see where your rebirths in past time, but probably they wouldn't tell you, no? So I don't know, maybe His Holiness, the Dalai Lama can, I don't know. But these feats or these siddhis, these are only there in order to benefit others. They are like side effects now of your very deep practice, but they are not the goal in itself. No? It's just you get them in order to be more effective in helping others. And it could be helpful to know the last rebirths of a person, because then you can be more skillful what to say to this person, what type of advice you could give. No? And it's said that, for example, the Buddha, and the night of his enlightenment, he could see all the rebirths he took before. No? So it seems to be something that is possible. No? But I know there are also in New Age and other traditions, there are some ways of so-called rebirthing, no? So as a therapeutical process. But you never know, how would you measure, is it really true, no, or not? No? But it could be helpful for some. No? And suppose you find a master who would tell you, you have been reborn as this and this and this and this and this. No? What would you do then with this? No? So how would it help? For example, yeah.
Possibly it would help me in my journey for liberation. It would give me insights about my journey.
Yeah, but even if you don't know exactly, when you accept rebirth, no? And also the mind, the nature of the mind, it has no beginning and no end. So because it has no beginning, it means you have been reborn already in all different types of forms. No? So there are some sutra passages where they say the amount of milk you have drink as a baby is larger than an ocean, no? Or the pile of your heads that were severed from your body by killing you is higher than Mount Meru, and so on. And you probably have been incarnated or reborn as any type of possible living beings. And the nice thing is, when you start to think like this, that all beings have been your mothers, your children, your father, your mother in one time. And this really, when you think about this creates a lot of closeness to other sentient beings. So maybe you just think, even if you don't know exactly, but you know, I was for sure a spider somewhere, or maybe, I don't know, a monkey, a dog, a cat, I don't know, some shark in the sea. So, some music?
Venerable.
Yes?
Thank you for what you shared. One was just curious to know that is it a legitimate aspiration to get to know one's rebirths, one's earlier births? One is asking this because in the King of Aspiration prayers, there is a verse which mentions that may I have knowledge of my previous lives, or phrased in a different way. So to specifically put in effort to try and know one's earlier births, is that desirable?
Yeah, as I said, I think even if would someone tell you what was your last rebirth, no? I'm not 100% sure how this could help you on your way. Maybe, for example, someone says, okay, you have been a dog at this place. So the only thing what I can imagine could help in this situation, that you really appreciate your present situation that you have now, and try to do everything to ensure that your next rebirth has the best condition to continue with your practice. So maybe it makes you more realistic, but how could you then decide, or what is this really true? But 100% sure you have been probably reborn in a certain animal form, no? So I don't know this passage of this King of Aspiration. You mean the King of Prayers, probably, no?
Yes, the Samantha Bhadra,
Yeah, I
King of
cannot.
Aspirations.
Actually, at the moment, I cannot remember this passage. No, I just remember the last one of the last passages. No, so no, that's from the dedication of Shantideva. What I'm thinking now. Maybe, but I think don't put your whole aspiration on knowing your past rebirths. It would be better to maybe you'll go to another slide here to the Lamrim, so that you really, the small scope, the most important motivation in order to practice Dharma is to ensure that you have a fortunate rebirth. So fortunate just in the sense that you have the possibility to continue with your practice, because it's also said we cannot achieve enlightenment in one life. It's possible, but it's very, very, very rare. And according to the Sutra vehicle, it takes 3 countless eons in order to become enlightened. So countless is, I think, a 10 with 64 zeros behind. So 3 countless eons, so it's an incredible long time. So it's very good, because we have this long journey before us. It's really good to do everything what we can in order to create the causes for our next rebirth, and don't be fixated on the last rebirth, because we cannot do anything about it anymore. So it's better to do everything what we can to get a so-called precious human rebirth. Precious, where you have the resources, the time, the intelligence, the health, and the best would be a human body in order to continue with your practice.
Why should we meditate?
Why should we meditate? That's the question I like. That's a challenge. So the question is, why do we meditate? That's actually not a bad question, because I meditated quite a long time, and I was not even sure why I did it, no? Because it felt sometimes it felt pleasant, no? Oh, it's so nice, it's relaxing, no? Your mind gets a little bit clearer, but most of the time it's really painful with your knees sitting, it's even boring, and so on. And when I then learned that what meditation actually is, the Tibetan word, no? What also Venerable Amy said last time, that meditation, the Tibetan word is gom. It means familiarize your mind or habituate your mind, and to get to know your mind, and also habituate your mind with your positive qualities. So develop your mind. This is the why. Why should we meditate? In order to develop our mind and to find not only temporary happiness, but according to this goal, ultimate happiness, when you achieve nirvana or enlightenment. And if you follow the Mahayana tradition, so you would say you meditate in order to become a Buddha, in order to benefit all other sentient beings, not for oneself, not only for relaxation, which is good, no, and is very helpful, but you would miss the broader perspective, no? So, as a Mahayana Buddhist, would I say, why meditating? Become a Buddha, because then you can really help others, and at the same time you help yourself the best.
As you say, getting enlightenment is very, very difficult.
Mm.
So the first stage would be fortunate rebirth, right?
Yes.
And what if I don't feel like serving people and I'm selfish and I want to have my own pleasures?
Of course. So the question is, so that I said enlightenment is a very difficult to reach possibility. So what if I only want to do it more for myself? Then you do it just for yourself, but you miss some opportunities. No? So it said you can do something for yourself. So of course we now have to look a little bit what you mean doing something for yourself. So which is something good, doing something for yourself?
Meaning I don't feel compassionate, if suppose. How? I don't feel compassionate for people, suppose.
I'm not sure that you don't. I think everyone feels some compassion, maybe only for those in your family, and even then not. I cannot imagine. There must be some compassion. Of course, let's say you don't have any compassion and so on, no? But it said here, according to the Mahayana, first we strive for fortunate rebirth. Of course, you want to be happy. You want to be happy? Of course. So you want to have short-term happiness or long-term happiness? Long-term. Good. So if you want to have long-term happiness, the best would be to practice the Dharma, to develop compassion in yourself and also love, because this really makes you content and peaceful and gives you long-term happiness. And it's there where we have to start. No? First, we have to take care for ourselves, but not in this narcissistic way. I need to buy this and I have to go this. That's totally fine. But if this is our only goal, then it's quite limited, and you will never get lasting happiness. So you should. If you want to have lasting happiness, you should get rid of the mental states that disturb your happiness. These are the afflictions: hate, anger, jealousy, miserliness, moodiness, and so on and so on, and how to overcome them by analyzing them and applying the antidotes. And if you really see how you suffer also, so you get a lot of compassion for yourself, and you directly also see that other beings, they suffer the same, and from this you get into compassion. So don't stress yourself with, all sentient beings, that's a big goal. No, I just want to do it for myself. That's good. You start with this, and then things, I think, organically grow. No? We cannot push or force ourselves. No? It's also a process. No? So start with this and the wish, I want lasting happiness, and then analyze how you get it. No? And His Holiness once said, I think I interpret a little bit, he said, the best, if you're really selfish, then strive to become a Buddha, because then you have ultimate happiness, and that's the best way to be selfish. No? When you want to be selfish, then do it in a real good way. No? I think that's good. So don't stress. So sometimes also, we must be compassionate to everyone. We have to love everyone. I don't love them. They are just annoying me. No? And first, we have to start somewhere where we are. No? And don't push. Otherwise, it gets just artificial. It has to grow in an organic way. And therefore, maybe it's said it takes such a long time, no? Because we are so used to our enclosed mind, no? That we even now don't know how it feels to be something else, no? Something greater. No? So I just would like to tell you what I would like to do next time on Monday. So first we had this more practical examples, maybe the hint to rebirth. And next time it's quite easy to understand. Actually, it's a logical reasoning, and I think it's nice to know how this works. And then later on, I just have to check. Yes, this process, how we take rebirth and how we are trapped in this cycle, there's this so-called wheel of life. So this is actually the explanation why we are reborn, and what happens on the way, what are the processes, the causal links, and how to get out. So I hope I have some time to explain you a little bit this wheel of life. So I don't know if we have it here. No, I can't see it. So this is the picture where you see Yama, the god of death, with his teeth and so on, holding this wheel of life. And this actually is symbolic representation of this causal links that traps us. But we trap ourselves. We reinforce with everything what we do. We reinforce either this process, or we can reverse it. No? So this is very central to Buddhism. It's very essential for the explanation of karma, and everything rests on this view of rebirth. Without this wouldn't make any sense. No? But as I said, Dharma Light, some people like Coca-Cola Light. Some people want the real thing. So at least, even if you don't believe it, it's good to know, I think. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And shortly let us dedicate. So all the positive energies we have created, so listening to this presentation, every reflection we did, every doubt we had, so may it become a positive course for the full development of our potential in order to be of benefit for ourselves and for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And I would also like to dedicate these positive forces for the long and healthy life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that he will stay with us longer and also to continue to teach us. Thank you so much, everyone, and hopefully see you on Monday at 6:30.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you so much, Venla.
Thank you very much.
So you could all see the slides, or was there some problem?
Ah, now it's back.
No,
We can see you
yeah,
clearly.
we didn't
Now
see the
it's back.
slides.
You saw the slides, no?
No, we didn't see the slides.
What? Oh no!
But we
I
see
Yeah,
you.
we missed the
That's good
slides,
that you
and
see me. Okay,
But
next
we can
time.
see you now.
That's
yeah,
good. So you couldn't see me before, not?
no,
A little bit on and off.
a thumbnail.
Nothing went wrong. Don't still get it. Okay, I will improve. Sorry for that, because there were also quite a lot of messages I couldn't read in between. Probably, oh, we cannot see you. So, all right, let's see what they said. Hello, the audio video seemed to have hanged from my device. Okay. Image of animal speaking. Okay. All right. Next time I improve. Promised. Next time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.